let's take a closer look at perhaps the last natural paradise in the area between the main Danube and the surrounding wetlands. We will find ourselves in the space of a special light scene, rhythmically divided in the vertical position of trees and plants and the horizontal beauty of lake surfaces and swamplands. Spring has already finished its work. The resurrection of the nature of the Danube has crossed the threshold into summer days. The hot sun has risen over the floodplain forest. Birds fly into the dense crowns of the poplars. All living things take to the safety of the trees' shadows. Many of the trees will fall under the chisels of the teeth of the carver, the beaver, and settle at the bottom of the water. The grass snake finds its way between the water lilies, water chestnuts and fern as if it wants to give us a tour of its community. Accompanied by croaking frogs and the jerky flight of a dragonfly, a curious swan swims around a split alder trunk drowned below the surface, which has blackened in its length and has hardened like metal. Alder grows over these areas, and poplar minarets rise above them. The regular turning of the seasons from spring to windy winters creates a diverse set of reeds and plants, which becomes a food cache concentrated down at the sinking bottom for the interest of birds and fish. Not only a good hiding place for spawned eggs, but also for successful nesting of birds. In a moment, on a hot summer evening, fish leave the coolness of the depths looking for food. The birds have returned from their hiding places. Some land on the water surface or wet, shallowly flooded gravel. Others wade through swampy reeds to feed themselves and their offspring in the nests. The sun gilds, then deepens into purple as the core of a split alder meanders into the darkness of night. Twisted yellow leaves fall silently over the tiny bodies of the wetland biotope. A great Capricorn beetle is heading towards an unknown destination. In the air, the wings of Emperor Dragonfly are flashing by, and the Danube salamander moves in the rocky, darkened water. The shallow water is suddenly stirred up by a kingfisher. He still manages to catch a small fish. The deep crowns of the poplars and willows will soon lose their leaves. They stand dignified above the dried reeds. After centuries, some have shriveled up and become the home of birds and insects. The trees seem to breathe through the holes created by the work of diligent woodpeckers and the dangerous hornets who have made the trees their home. Elevations and thickets around field elms and orphaned trees are hiding instinctively reacting deer, waiting for their peace, perhaps an escape from a distraction. Only the water levels reflect the images of autumn, sprinkled with leaves. The sad mounds of anthills abandoned on the dry land no longer have ants to sting stray animals. The plants are already drying up and gradually hibernating in the roots to survive the winter until spring sprouting. Even fish are slowing down communication amongst themselves. The living world of mosquitoes has disappeared above them. A wolf spider makes its last run on the gravel field. Autumn appears to burn all around, with the illusion of carpets of smouldering leaves. The winter solstice leans its chin against the windbreak of the trees as it bends the branches and lifts up the cawing crows. Above the partially frozen surface with cracked ice, petrified castles of trees protrude into the sky. Steep banks with deposits of wood and tangles of branches give the impression of a living trace of what once was. The dirty ice slide is a path for nutria, otter, and might hide the way to the beaver den. The wide wetland is a reserved wintering ground for important guests. Ducks, as well as other birds, land and take off again, as if they are looking for their firm decisions about which of the lakes, bays, and water corners will be the right place for wintering. In the water depressions, the movement of carp, pike, and other fish are slowing down. The paths of small and large animals cross in the icy debris. The ducks are disturbed by a sneaking fox. They take off with a crash in the silence of the swamps. Bitten twigs of invasive trees, especially willows, belong on the survival menu of animals. They bend over the roots in the clods furrowed by wild boar. Thrush carefully collect the seeds and other remains. Animals prepare to survive the season. Nature can be cruel in winter. In the silence of the night, under the tops of the lonely trees, owls circle, watching for the telltale movement of small birds and rodents as they forage for their own meal. Survival instinct encourages frequent movement for animals not in hibernation, who would otherwise freeze and be swallowed by the world transformed by ice. Spring has finally sprouted the constricted life in the floodplain forest. Flowers spread under the trees into the endless distance. Leaves turn green, and the wild garlic flowers are awakened. Birds are singing along the edges of the thickets as they begin their courtship. The emboldened ones enter the floodplain forest scene. The occupants of the anthills are still waiting for the leaves in the willow branches above them to bud. The curious violet oil beetle retreats, looking for an escape from the monstrous stag beetle. The tenacious beaver and his family split the water behind them as they swim to the soft wood of young trees, whose juicy delicacies will soon turn to grated pencils. Under the butterfly's wings, young reeds come to life. All the unique flowers float towards the wetlands that have been awakened by the croaking of frogs. They lay in the decoys and put out into the world the glass translucencies of the eggs with their offspring. Even at the surface of the lakes, in their shores, delicate fronds of water ferns and lily pad anchors are breaking through the surface. The woodpecker, once again, knocks out a rhythmic message, inviting to life the badger, the snake, and other latecomers, or those who are yet to arrive to work. Under the wings of a sea eagle, the Danube fills the riverbed with fresh water and new gravel from the spring flood. It lifts and tears at the banks, branches out and goes wild far beyond the horizon. The dizzying cycle of nature continues. Here, in the protected area of the Danube floodplains, there is still that unique, vulnerable place of the rare habitat of flora and fauna, which is interrupted only by spring and summer fluctuations in the levels of wetlands and river pools. Just the awareness of the existence of this territory evokes an appeal to the conscience of each of us to protect this living organism of the country, a miraculous window of education in which present and future visitors would discover and share this natural beauty at any time of the year.